Good morning from Prague, everybody. Today we are starting our day with a bit of a wander through the Jewish quarter, which we have not been to yet, and then we're doing something pretty exciting afterwards.
We're walking past this bridge heading to the Jewish quarter, but you can see all the key sites from here. We've got Prague Castle with the St. Vitus Cathedral you can see up there in the distance. We can see the astronomical clock tower through there. It's just such a beautiful city, and I love that these key sites you can see from almost anywhere. And we can, of course, if you look up there, see the Eiffel Tower. We're just wandering here in the Jewish quarter. Now, we didn't come with any specific plan or route or anything, we just thought we'd wander, but it's really interesting. There are signs kind of throughout the Jewish quarter of the different key sites, like a map of where the key sites are, kind of a suggested self-guided walking tour and things like that. So they're definitely inviting people to come through and see their key sites. It's really interesting though, when I did research on Prague, one of the things a lot of people said you had to visit was the cemetery, the old Jewish cemetery, which seems a bit weird to me, but again, on these signs here in the Jewish quarter, that's one of the key sites they've pointed out that they suggest people go visit, is the old Jewish cemetery, so it's very interesting. I also read about the Jewish quarter that early in the 13th century, this kind of came together because Jewish people here in Prague were all forced to live here in the Jewish quarter, and it became somewhat of like a ghetto is the phrase that they use. And then that was obviously lifted, I think, in the 20th century. So now Jewish people here in Prague are not forced to live here, but it has retained obviously a lot of the culture with all the synagogues and things like that.
Alright, we have now left the Jewish quarter. It was really pretty, full of old buildings, really nice architecture. We did not go to the cemetery because what seems to be a common theme on this holiday is that we're getting up too early before things open. The cemetery does not open until 9 AM. So now we're walking to our next activity. Any guesses what it is? We have come to the Museum of Illusion.
It's all about perspective, guys.
Use the mirrored cylinder to reveal a hidden picture. Nothing there. You got to admit that's a little bit creepy. One question, how? Guy just made fun of Shrek 2. So a hot tip from our experience when coming to museums like this one, for example, we have arrived at the time they open, which is also when the massive school groups arrive. So don't know if that means you should arrive later or not, but it is absolutely hectic in here. What are you thinking of the Museum of Illusion so far, Stacey?
It's very cool, but not something you can do with crowds.
It is very cool. It's smaller than we thought it would be, but there's still a decent amount of artwork so you can play around with. It'd be really good for kids. The kids here are absolutely enjoying it.
Okay guys, we've just finished up at the Illusion Art Museum here in Prague. It was okay. It was cool, I think, having so many kids in there made it hard because obviously a lot of the fun of it is taking photos and experiencing the illusions, and when there's a lot of people it means you can't necessarily experience all of them, but we did manage to kind of get through everything, which was good. I'd say if you are on a tight budget, it's quite pricey for the size. I think we thought it would be a bit bigger, but nonetheless, if you are looking for something to do in Prague, it is a good option.
And right after finishing up at the Museum of Illusion, right outside, we've stumbled across this little market. We are now on our way to look at a pretty controversial statue, but it is apparently one that you have to come see when you're in Prague. We have come to see the statue, which is called Man Hanging Out, and it depicts a Freud hanging by one hand. If you look really closely, you can see that he's actually moving with the wind. This sculpture is so lifelike that it's said on the internet that often people or tourists will walk by and think that it's actually someone in need of help. That's how lifelike it is. Apparently it's a sculpture with a statement about the sculptor's fear of growing intellectualism. And it's a pretty popular piece. It's been to London, it's been to Michigan, and now it's back in Prague. We are now back on Charles Bridge. If you want to see more of Charles Bridge, you should check out our previous vlogs from Prague. But yes, we are walking away from the old town onto the other side. We're
Crossing the river.
Crossing the river. In the distance, we can see Prague Castle, which we visited yesterday.
The cathedral has serious Hogwarts vibes,
Oh,
I
yeah.
have to say, sitting on top of like, kind of raised up on top of a mountain.
And then you've got the rooftops of the whole complex, kind of this sunburnt red colour. Pretty. Okay guys, we have crossed to the other side of Charles Bridge and we've come to the Lenin Wall. This wall was actually decorated by love poems and short messages since 1960. And then after John Lennon was assassinated in 1980, an unknown artist painted a picture of John Lennon on the wall. Now since then, the wall has been repainted over and over and over again. The wall's been painted with political messages. It was painted from an Earth Day. What I think is really cool about this wall is that there's probably no day where this wall looks the exact same. Just before we saw people scribbling on it as well. So it's a continuously changing piece of art. The picture of John Lennon that kind of started the whole Lennon wall is long gone underneath layers and layers of paint. But it is a pretty cool thing to come and look at. It kind of looks like a lot of graffiti.
After saying last night we weren't going to come out and eat, we have actually come out for lunch today at the place we were meant to go last night. So it was recommended to us from Rosh's sister and her boyfriend.
No, my sister and my brother.
Her sister and her brother. In-law, yeah. From when they were in Prague over about 6 months ago, so we have come here. They recommended the goulash, so I'm getting that. I think this is a traditional Czech restaurant, so I'm very excited to try that. And Rosh has gone with the salmon because she has this weird obsession with salmon. Guys, it's crazy. We've already done 9 kilometers today and I feel like we haven't even really done anything. So it's just crazy to think how quickly you tick up kilometers when you are on holiday and wandering around and going to attractions, because we've really not done much today and 9 kilometers already and it's midday. Crazy. I'd hate to think how many kilometers we've done in our 2.5 weeks so far. Okay, we finished up with lunch. We're back in Old Town Square, but just passing through.
We have to say goodbye to Old Town Square.
I know, this might be our last time here. Guys, we were saying before, it looks like a movie set. Like the fronts of the buildings look like something you'd see on like a studio lot.
And I think because it's such an open space, you can stand so far away from the buildings. That's what makes them look pretend, because like when we stand here they look really small, whereas normally you're like kind of boxed in.
It's so pretty that it can't possibly be real.
Does that make
but it
any
is.
sense?
But anyways, like we said, just finished lunch. It was... Oh, what are you doing? Okay. Okay, yes, so we finished lunch. Now, I will preface what I'm about to say by saying that just because I didn't like it doesn't mean I'd not recommend going, because from the recommendation from Rosh's sister and her boyfriend, they told us to be prepared to wait in line. All the reviews said be prepared to wait in line, so it's a very popular place, so obviously it's well liked. The goulash is meant to be incredible. I think it came down to my personal food preferences, which are picky. And as I said in our Berlin vlog where I ate the currywurst, and I was talking about how we don't eat a lot of meat because Rosh doesn't eat meat, so when I do eat meat sometimes I just find it hard to eat. And that's what I found with the beef, and it was very soft, very tender, so I could see why it would be very well liked, but I just struggled to eat it. So it turns out I've not only gone off like sausages with a very crunchy exterior, also gone off like unprocessed meat essentially. So that was a factor. The second factor was I freaking hate mint. Like I love mint as in like a mint. Minty. I love mint toothpaste. I love mint mouthwash. I love mints. I don't love the herb mint. And it was, I think it was like baked into the bread or something, because I thought I could eat the bread bowl and make it look like, because I don't like to be rude, I don't like to leave. It's a waste of food and I don't want them to think.
She pushed through. She did very well. She pushed through.
I don't want them to be offended, so I was like, look, I'm struggling to eat the meat. I'll eat the bread bowl. That'll make it look like a lot's gone. The bread was full of mint, so really struggled to eat the mint. Nonetheless, I ate probably more than half of the full thing, so I did my best. But again, I could see why people love it, because it had a very rich flavour. The meat was like tender, like so soft. Wasn't for me. But you liked your salmon.
Yeah, I did. It was a nice like little I said to Stacey it was almost like a tavern, but it is a restaurant. The design and the atmosphere was really good, and I'm glad that Stacey tried goulash, but we'll probably never try it again.
If you like meat and you like mint, you'll love it. If you don't, you'll hate it. So that's a hot tip.
Alright guys, it is the next day. Just give me one sec.
Hey.
What are you doing?
Hiding from the sun.
You want to tell the viewers what our next steps are?
We are at the bus/train station waiting for our next bus, and there's no shelter, but we're also too afraid to move because we don't want to miss our bus, so I'm hiding. Rosh has built me a little fort.
As they said, we're at the bus stop. We are about to head off to our next destination. If you'd like to know where that is, well, you're going to have to hit subscribe, that notification bell as well, so that you don't miss when we put up our next video. We'll see you there. Bye.
Bye.